If you can't afford to do your HGV license, then the chances are you probably can't afford not to. So welcome to the channel, guys. Truck It Pro here. Thank you for joining me. So today's video is going to be about what the HGV industry could do for you. And also I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the HGV industry has done for me. So why did I become a HGV driver? I was just fed up and bored of the mundane life of going into an office day in, day out, and just dreading getting out of bed. It was something that took me a long time to come to terms with, and it took me a long while to figure out what I wanted to do. But I believe the direction that I took from being in an office to basically tyre fitting and so on and so forth led me down this path. It wasn't until I went on a call out as a tyre fitter, so I was doing truck tyres, that I met a HGV driver, and basically I was speaking to him and asked him how it was to be a truck driver. Now, he was very genuine and basically said about the good parts and the bad parts of the job, but on a whole, he said, it's better than any job I've ever done. So therefore, the next day, I went into the office at work, handed my notice in, and a week later booked my test to become a HGV driver. Now, this was quite a bold move because I didn't have another job to go to, and I had to borrow the money to do my test off of my granddad. So lucky enough for me, I was in a fortunate situation where I could borrow the money to do the test. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you can't afford to do the test, then you probably can't afford not to. And what I mean by that is, I borrowed that money and I paid it back within 4 months. I could have paid it back sooner if I wanted to, but obviously I didn't want to leave myself absolutely brassic. And obviously, as it was my granddad, he wasn't in a rush for it back, as long as he got it back within reason. So that's exactly what I did. I basically went and done my test, and 5 days later I passed it, and I got my first job driving as a Class 2 driver. Now, it has changed a little bit recently, so you don't have to get your Class 2 license first. You can go straight in and get your Class 1 license from a car. Now, me personally, that's not something that I recommend to people. I feel like it's a lot better to go and do some Class 2 work and get that experience. Now, that's not saying that you have to do your Class 2 license anymore, because if you've got a Class 1 license, you can drive a Class 2. So what I would do or recommend for you guys, if you are thinking about getting into the industry, is doing your Class 1 test. And if you pass your Class 1 test, go do a little bit of Class 2 work, even if it's only for a couple of months. Get used to driving a bigger vehicle, reversing in a rigid, and then work your way up to a Class 1. But if you feel confident enough to go straight to a Class 1, then feel free, crack on. But that's just what I would do. Now, one of the biggest issues that I had when I was looking into doing something different with my life was the pay. Now, there's a lot of jobs out there that I could have done, but nothing was quite at the scale of the pay of a HGV driver for my qualifications. Now, I could have gone back to university for 3 years and done a part-time job on the side and struggled, but eventually got there. Maybe, I don't know, become a physiotherapist or a teacher or something like that. Let's be honest with you, I would never become a teacher because I personally don't feel like I could be. Not just because of the academic level that it takes, but obviously because you have to deal with children all day. But anyway, that's a different story. So if you want a job what's going to pay you a good wage, where you don't have to go back to university for 3 years, then HGV driving is probably one of the best and most lucrative jobs that you can get into for that. Now, you say that the money's good, you say. Okay, so what can I expect to earn as a HGV driver? Well, to start with, if you're on a Class 2, you can probably expect to start off at around the 30k mark, depending on whereabouts in the country you live. So if you live a bit further up north, then obviously the wages are lower, but it's all relevant. If you're living down here in the south, like me, near London, then you'll probably be looking around that 35k mark. Now, once you move up to Class 1, it's kind of depending on how much work and how many hours you want to put in. There's not really a ceiling. To a degree, obviously there is, but if you want to do day driving like what I'm doing today, then you can probably expect onwards and upwards of 40k a year. Whereas if you want to do tramping where you're staying out all week, you know, if you don't really have many commitments and you just want to make as much money as you want, then you could be looking at 55, 60k a year. And obviously there are different jobs. The more specialized you get, if you are going to do, I don't know, say international jobs where you're taking something across to Belgium and stuff like that, it can be even higher. But that will all just depend on your work ethic and what you're willing to sacrifice. Now, a big question you need to ask yourself before you do get into the industry is the effects that it's going to have on you and your family. So if you, like me, you do have a family, a partner, then you'll want to sit down and talk about what kind of work you do want to do. Like I just said, you can spend up to 2 weeks away sometimes, where you'll literally be living in your lorry. So if you've got a wife and kids that you actually like to be with and see and want to spend time with, this job where you're going away for 2 weeks is definitely probably not going to be something you're going to want to do. However, with that said, some people will make that sacrifice, even if it's maybe just doing it for a year, just to get their head above water. So just make sure that you're having a deep conversation with your partner and discuss what your plans will be, because I have known it to absolutely ruin relationships, marriages, and end in divorce. When you're away all the time and your partner's having to deal with everything, especially if you've got kids together, it can be a big strain on them and cause resentment and lead to breakdowns. So just make sure that you are having those discussions, and hopefully you'll come to some sort of agreement that works for you both. Now, one thing I will say about the HGV industry, what it's done for me is it's literally got me out of debt. Now, before I became a HGV driver, like I said to you, I was doing little jobs. I was earning probably anywhere from 20 grand to 25 grand a year, and it was a struggle. Although me and my previous partners were both working at the same time, it just wasn't enough money to basically live. Now, as we know, prices and inflation has gone up and everything is getting more expensive. Now, luckily for me, since becoming a lorry driver, it took me about 2 years to wipe off all my debts and now be debt free. Now, if this is something that you're struggling with and you're thinking, well, I can't get myself into more debt to become a HGV driver, then just think about that. I'm not a financial advisor, but you've got to look at the long-term impact on your life compared to just struggling and getting by day. It is a hard and big decision to make. Some people are terrified of the thought of driving a vehicle this big, but if you can change your life by earning that little bit more money, then why wouldn't you? Now, I had a comment not so long ago, and that's why the intro of this video, the slogan was, if you can't afford to do your HGV license, then you probably can't afford not to. He messaged in a comment and said that it was this that gave him the kick up the arse to go do his test, and now he's passed, and he's thanked me in the comments, and basically, yeah, he's on his way to basically his new career. So if that sounds like something that's interesting you, then what are you waiting for? Make that move, make that step. Hopefully, in 2 years' time, you could be the one out of debt. Now, if you do like this kind of content and you are looking at getting into the trucking industry, make sure you follow us, give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really helps the channel out. And make sure you check out our merch at www.truckitproud.com. Got loads of different things on there. Hoodies, t-shirts, bags, the lot. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll leave the link in the description. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you on the next video. Bye bye.